San Francisco Jazz Club shifting to earlier hours because of Tenderloin street crime. A jazz club. What jazz club do you know that's legit is going to close? Sorry, guys, 10 p.m. Got to go home. Right? Jazz club and early hours. Those are not two things that should go in the same sentence. Jazz club is after hours. It's late into the night. You get that epic jazz groove going on. That's what it's all about. Not in San Francisco. No. Guys, we got to close up shop because it is not safe outside. We got people doing crazy stuff out there. You guys got to go home. We got to get this place locked down. No more jazz for you. We got to go. Let's go. Early hours. We're closing. Literally what we got going on. Let's get into it. Here we go. When you think of a jazz club, most likely you imagine a dark room, leather chairs, and good music. San Francisco's, can you guys read this? Yep. Yeah, you can. San Francisco's Black Cat Jazz Supper Club. That sounds good, doesn't it? Black Cat Jazz Supper Club has all those things, but they also have a big problem. Uh-oh, what's that? What's that? You know the old saying, nothing good happens after midnight? Yes, I do, said Jason Moore, operations director of the Black Cat Jazz Supper Club. The Black Cat is in the city's embattled Tenderloin District. That is not good. We know how that's going to go, don't we? Operation Director Jason Moore says that they barely go a day without something happening. Not shocking, is it? Not shocking. We had a person come in off the street demanding contraband to do drugs with, and we told him no, and he assaulted my bartender. Punched him, said Moore. I mean, not shocking. You're in the Tenderloin. You're in the Tenderloin. I mean, this is everyday occurrence, right? Everyday occurrence. Jason says the crime, rampant drug use, and homelessness in the area are unbearable. Well, yes, they're unbearable, but you're still there. So you are bearing it. You know, your very presence there indicates, well, it's somewhat bearable. But I hear what you're saying. It's unbearable. And it's just not good, right? Last year, the club was vandalized, then looted for hours. Well, those drugs ain't free. So you got to get the drugs somehow. So if you're a business in the Tenderloin or close to the Tenderloin, we know what that looks like because we have, covered those storylines 10 ways from Sunday. And they're always the same. You got multiple break-ins and the hours get shortened up and then less personnel and, prices go up and then it becomes this self-fulfilling. We got to close down. We can't make a go of it. It's just, and a whole bunch of other things happen in that they're not making money. Their numbers dwindle. Other businesses in the area leave. That's what you got going on, right? Just last weekend, Jason said someone simply walked in and stole their computer while they were open. They stole, a MacBook Pro right off the host stand, said Moore. You used to do a little time for that kind of thing. California? Anymore? You're not even going to get arrested. It's going to be there's not enough cops to run around and catch you. So why wouldn't you do that? It's easy money, free money, right? It's even worse at night, he says, which is a nightmare for a business like his nightclub. I'm, nothing good happens after midnight. I want to push that back to 10 p.m. because even on the West Coast during the summer, it's still dark by about 10 p.m. We can, right now it gets dark. I don't know. Does it get dark here in Seattle at maybe 8:30, 8:45 now? But not long ago, it was light enough to be able to do everything you needed to do at 9:45 at night. Not 10. 10, it's always dark. You get 9:30, 9:45. It's still pretty darn light here in summer, in like mid-June, maybe early July. It's light because the fireworks don't go off until 10:15, 10:30, something like that. Because when it's really dark. So I want to move that. Nothing good happens before midnight. Nothing good happens after midnight. Nothing good happens after 10 because it's dark. And that's when people are like, oh, I've got the cover of darkness. I'm going to just do whatever I want. I don't blame people for not wanting to come down and wait, even though we always say to people, please wait inside while your Uber is coming, said Moore. When you have to talk about your clients being concerned about being outside on the street in front of your establishment, that's when you know you're in a sketchy area. Yep. So even with the safety precautions, Moore says they can't do it anymore. That's why they've made the decision to change their business hours. I'm sure that'll be fine. Yeah, most people who enjoy jazz, they want to be in bed by 10 anyway, right? That's a stay out late type thing, or it historically has been. I think people who are into jazz, really into jazz, they're like, the later the better. We're going to start opening earlier in September just because that's what guests are asking for earlier times to get in, said Moore. That's wild. A jazz club. Okay, we'd like to come in. Is there any chance we could come in at 4:00 and you do like, the early show? Because it gets dark. We don't want to get stabbed to death. We don't want that to happen. A matinee jazz set may not have the same feel as the late night sessions. In all of the jazz movies I've seen throughout my lifetime, let's be honest, so much of what we associate with is through Hollywood, right? And they're so accurate. But the settings of jazz, late night jazz clubs, it's like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, and they're just getting into their groove and they're just going. But it's not 7 p.m. because, we got to get the F out of here because it is not safe here. We can't stay at this jazz club because, man, the street's out there. Ooh, no go. Gotta go. So could you get us that early session? That's exactly what they're saying. A matinee jazz set may not have the same feel as late night jazz sessions they're grown up so used to, but it's something Moore says they have no choice but to try. All right, give it a rip. But are you going to have lots of people coming out to, maybe they get used to it, right? Also means you got a different crowd. You've probably got an older crowd. Oh, we need to get home. I find myself in that crowd a lot more. You know what, guys? It's 8:00. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired. Let's go home. I can't wait to get in bed. Oh man, I just can't wait. You just feel like a schmuck, but you're tired. You just want to go home. Yeah, let's hit the 6 p.m. set of the jazz club at the Black Cat Alley. He just wishes the city would try harder to deal with the neighborhood drug use and street crime. All right, well, there it is. If the city was doing that, you wouldn't have businesses one step away from basically closing up doors. Because a jazz club closing up early or having early sets, come on now. That is just simply not right, is it? I'm not a huge jazz fan, but I understand the drill. I'm more of a rock and roll kind of guy. I just am. Listen to some really good Black Sabbath this morning. Before I come to work, I like to crank a little Black Sabbath, see what the Prince of Darkness has to say. So totally different genre than jazz, but jazz, it's got its place and people love it. But, in a neighborhood that's got massive drug use and street crime, jazz places are always in where there's nightclubs, and where there are nightclubs, there's always shenanigans, right? Oftentimes I'll wake up on like Sunday morning just to see what happened on Saturday night. That's so exciting. And you look through Chicago, you look through Atlanta, you look through, the list just goes on. And I've got these all dialed in on my news apps. And invariably, I'll wake up on Sunday morning. There will be a shooting of multiple people somewhere at a nightclub getting out at about 2 a.m. Last call. There will be a shooting. Somebody gets worked up. They've been beefing all night. And then come closing time, they go after each other, and it's just a bang, bang fest, right? Yeah. So it's just back and forth. Nobody's getting anything done. And that's the whole problem, said Moore. Well, that's because until you clean up the streets, nothing is going to get done. And people aren't going to want to go to an environment where they do not feel safe. So, there's that. So that little tweak in the equation, that is what is causing all this, right? You've got politicians and you've got progressive ideology that has just basically allowed criminals to just be emboldened to do whatever they want. Walk into a jazz nightclub, grab the computer, run out the door. Nobody's going to chase them. They can hawk it for easy, fast cash in open air stolen markets, which are the same ones that they sell fentanyl that comes right up through the southern border. I mean, why wouldn't you, have that lifestyle? Crime does pay. Crime does pay, and it's paying really, really well right now. But so many of the storylines I am doing right now are what I feel are the last ditch efforts of businesses to try and stay open, come up with a new approach, because their cities aren't providing a safe environment for the people that want to enjoy these establishments. Nightclubs, restaurants, bars, venues, anything in these downtown cores is being impacted. In Portland, there was a story not long ago, which was a food court got, with basically food trucks. I think it was a dozen of them or so, or maybe 15. It looked really cool. I mean, it looked like a place you'd go and you go, okay, this is not going to be good for me, but this is going to be delicious. You know what I mean? Just all kinds of different food. And it closed down just boom overnight. They said they didn't get an extension on the lease. The managers who were renting this spot and were providing 15 spots, whatever. But the story was, well, their lease wasn't renewed. Well, how come the lease wasn't renewed? And folks were having a tough time at that location because it's in a part of Portland that, just a lot of criminal activity, and these food trucks were being broken into. And at the same time that story was going on, there's another story about another location where the food truck owners were saying, business has been pretty slow this summer. It's been really slow. And the story was more about, well, things are just kind of slow. Instead of dealing with people don't feel comfortable enough, people don't feel safe enough to come to your food establishment in that location. They feel like they might get assaulted. They feel like their car, which they parked and walked a block to get to your food establishment, might get broken into. They feel like they might get assaulted on the sidewalk by a crazy person whacked out on Lord knows what drugs. So, there's that. Meanwhile, we've got my last podcast was City of Portland isn't going to clean up the streets, but they are going to spend $2.7 million on trying to keep their parking garages more secure. They're going to have more security personnel covering the parking garages because nobody's going to their parking garages. They're just not. Kind of like San Francisco. I mean, people are not going to the downtown core because they don't feel safe. And they also don't have to, the whole work from home thing. The number one city with the worst return from work from home in the United States, what would you think it would be? Man, I would have thought it would have been San Fran, right? Who we're talking about here. It's not. It's the city of brotherly love. It's Philadelphia. And one of the primary reasons is they've got a tax on employees, like a 3.94% tax or some damn thing. So if you're paying rent and now you're no longer paying rent and you've moved your headquarters out of downtown Philly and you're in an area where you're no longer paying rent and you're not paying that additional 3.9 or close to 4% in tax, why would you move back? So there's so many of these stories where it's like, okay, here is cause, here is effect. And then instead of dealing with the cause, what is causing the issue? Well, let's try this approach. Oh, we got a lot of crime. Let's open up early because that's what the customers are wanting. No, the customers, they still want to go to their jazz clubs. That's one of those things, right? I'll go into a risky area. There's an area in Seattle called Sodo. It's south of the Dome, even though there's no dome anymore. We got a couple of big stadiums, but sketchy. They're sketchy. But if I've got a really good show to go to, like I saw Jane's Addiction at a little club there, like a 1,500 person venue. And this was a few years back, and Dave Navarro was on guitar. I mean, I was 4 or 5 people away from Perry Farrell Dave Navarro on stage in a little tiny nightclub. It was epic. And I will risk it to go there. If I get back to my car and it's broken into, which has happened in different areas here in Seattle, I'm okay with that because I got to see a really great band. But ultimately, I'd like to be able to go somewhere and not have my car getting broken into, not have to feel unsafe after leaving. And so I typically don't feel, unsafe wherever I am because I go in groups and, I'm not a small human being, but I don't carry a gun. And that's kind of what you'd need if you came up against somebody who had one. But, I will risk it. But I think the vast majority of people just don't want to do that. They're really, really reasonable. And they're like, no, I don't think we're going into the downtown anymore. And I hear that so often from you guys and gals. Yeah, I just don't go into whatever city it is that you live in. I moved out to the burbs a while ago, or I moved to another state. I moved to another city. I'm living there now. You couldn't get me to go into downtown. Well, yeah, but I like to go to really good concerts, right? I haven't been to one this summer. I haven't been to a single show, I don't think, this summer. I went to a bunch in spring, saw Iron Maiden. Who else did I see? Depeche Mode. That was epic. But they're just, the summers, as I get older, there's like fewer and fewer bands that I want to see, right? I don't know. We have the Gorge here in Seattle. It's in Eastern Washington. It's about a 2.5 hour drive. It's literally in the Columbia River. Most epic setting ever. But it's got just a bunch of EDM shows and stuff that I just don't care about. Belinda Carlisle. I just don't care. I'm not going there. So I feel like the older I get, the fewer bands are around that are touring during summer that I want to see. And I'm not sure why that is. Is that a demographic thing? I have no idea. So, there's rhyme or reason to why you go see a show where you go see it. Jazz alley, jazz clubs, earlier than later. That seems, I want to say un-American. But I are we supposed to say that anymore? Is that socially acceptable? Un-American? I don't know if you can even say American anymore. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to look up my, Wheaties box of magic decoder ring and figure that out. But yeah, this whole concept of earlier hours for a jazz club. What? How is that going to work? It's not. And this jazz club at some point in time will probably go under because the same things we're talking about in this article that's causing them to close up early are going to cause them to close down. And that's, rinse, repeat. That's so much of what we cover here on News for Reasonable People. We're not going after the root cause. We're just trying to band-aid everything. And then we wonder why it doesn't work out. Well, I think reasonable people understand why it doesn't work out. And it doesn't work out because you're crazy to think it would work out in the first place. So there's that. All right. Make sure you subscribe, hit that notification bell, all that good stuff. Thank you so much for being here. I will catch up with you on the next one. Bye for now.